Good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News. Well, good morning and welcome to Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday. Thank you so much for joining this morning. And let's start the morning out with honoring God with our body. So, God, please guard our mind and our thoughts. God, help me to fix my thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, please protect our ears and help us listen to your voice. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, please protect our eyes from sin's damage. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, please speak life over our mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, please help our hands to serve generously. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, please protect my reproductive organs. God, help me to honor you with my body. And God, please protect our feet as we walk along your path. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And that is something that we definitely try to say everything. Every time we're, here, if you're joining us here for the first time on Unfiltered Vision News, and we've got one in here from Australia, and it says it's nighttime in Australia. Yep, you guys are getting ready to go to bed, and we are just waking up here in the States. So thank you so much for taking the time out to join us this morning, and for everybody else that is joining us in different parts of the world and in different time zones across the United States. So with that, we're going to get into it with our trending topics on X. So let's pull that up. So the DOJ warns states of prosecution for non-citizen voting, and this has been a point of contention for a while. So let me pull it up. So apparently, the Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon sent letters Tuesday demanding states detail within 5 days how they would comply with the federal laws banning non-citizen voting, which have carried penalties like fines and prison since 1996. Now, studies show such cases are rare, often just a few over decades, yet the DOJ stressed officials' liability for not keeping voter rolls clean. The move comes with monitors deployed to 15 jurisdictions in 6 states and aligns with broader efforts like the SAVE Act as states respond ahead of the 2026 midterms amid partisan reactions. So this is Donald Trump on the 7th. I was trying to find a little bit better. So let's get it from her.
In 2026, in this upcoming primary season, the United States Department of Justice Civil Rights Division, as it has done for decades, is this year sending election monitors into 15 different jurisdictions in 6 states. And those states are Arizona, Michigan, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, and Virginia. And we're sending the monitors into cities and counties where there may have been some problems in the recent elections. And so this is something that DOJ does routinely. So for example, in 2022, in the primary season, there were 9 jurisdictions in which the prior administration sent election monitors during primaries. In 2024, similarly, there were in that election 27 different jurisdictions monitored by the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. So this year we're kind of in the middle of that with our 15. And what we hope to do here is increase voter confidence, make sure there are no language barriers or access to voting for Americans with disabilities, or sort of failure to make sure that polling places are open correctly for the amount of time necessary, and that everyone has appropriate access to vote who should be allowed to vote. So this is an important goal that increases voter confidence. And it's also important to make sure that our voting is accurate so that every citizen who votes has their vote counted equally without being canceled out by somebody who shouldn't be voting. Now, unfortunately, in taking Michigan as an example, we've gotten some attacks from leaders over there, the Attorney General and the governor. They don't like the fact that we're doing this, but to be clear, both Republican and Democrat administrations have sent monitors to Michigan and these other jurisdictions in the past. I think it's a great exercise of our oversight duty and our enforcement duty to enforce the Help America Vote Act, National Voter Registration Act, the Voting Rights Act, a very important statute, and other civil rights statutes like the Civil Rights Act of 1960. So I'm proud to be helping organize this effort and send those monitors to help increase all citizens' confidence in the outcome of our elections. And stay tuned as we get towards the general election, where there'll be an even DOJ has done for decades in our great nation. Thank you.
Right. So when you hear about this, it's not that anything's happening that hasn't happened already. I know people get freaked out. It's like, oh no, they're interfering. Look, a lot of these states, they're not keeping clean voter rolls. There are people that are deceased that are on voter rolls. There are people that they haven't removed that have moved out of the state. And newsflash, and this is something I didn't know, and this is something I'm probably going to have to do on the show to walk everybody through. When you leave a state, you don't automatically fall off of their voter rolls. You sit there. And a perfect example is when I had moved here from California. I want to say it was, let's see, when we lived in our house, it was for the 2020 election. I received a registration card asking me if I was going to vote in California with my Georgia address on it, which means I was still under voter. I was like, okay, odd, weird. So I had to go through the process of, looking into it, but it happens. It's very interesting when that happens. So that's something we have to do. You have to, again, unenroll when you leave a state. It doesn't automatically happen. So the next thing article is Trump and State Department share Rubio's 2020 warning on democratic socialism, and that's happening. And then the prosecutors link suspect to Charlie Kirk assassination in Utah. Yeah, there's some videos that I came across. Basically, there are 2 different sets of DNA on the gun. So they're going through that, and that's something that came up in the court case. So moving on to all sides, apparently Graham Plattner, he ends Senate candidacy amid assault allegation, Dem search for replacement. So Senate candidate Graham Plattner dropped out of the race on Wednesday following accusations of sexual assault. And Jenny Raciat accused Plattner of the assault on Monday, saying he entered her main home uninvited. So a lot of the upper echelon, they decided to not get behind him. And I did watch his video where he was discussing how he was going to step down and the power structure within the Democratic Party. And I was like, it's interesting because from his perspective, it's like, you know, they're taking this away from us. But I'm like, if they wanted to take it away from you sooner, they wouldn't have backed you, you know. So this is going to be very interesting because they're going to have to find somebody within a few days to replace him. Universities release report questioning political bias in the humanities. Yeah, there shouldn't be political bias in university, but there is. And you've seen some of these young people come out thinking that socialism and communism is just great. Here's my thing: you need to live in these countries that actually practice that, and then bring us back proof of concept that is great. You can't be here saying something that everybody knows doesn't work because everybody leaves those countries to come here because their countries aren't working with socialism. Like it's just weird. It's weird. I'm gonna have to find this video of this woman. It was a couple of years ago. She had I want to say it's probably like 23, 20, 22, 23. And she was in tears because she left a socialist country. And she was like, I hear the same talk and the same rhetoric that I heard from the country that I left. She was like, these young people don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand the damage that socialism causes. Now, we do have quasi socialism here because we do take our taxes and then we redistribute them and share amongst the people, right? We do have that. But the difference is we actually have a capitalistic system, right? We have that. And we also have representatives that we vote into office. So we have our republic. Now, where we're losing this behind the scenes, because there are people that want to rule and control, and we see it being eroded. And so it's always going to be this power dynamic for control. Now, reports suggest Russian soldiers surviving about 20 to 35 minutes in combat. Very sad. I don't like war. I just don't like seeing it. Now, Trump rings stock market opening bell. Trump accounts officially open. So that was a couple of days ago. Trump says he thinks the Iran ceasefire is over. It was just crazy. So y'all, we are right back in the middle of it. I'm not covering that today. I might cover a little bit of that tomorrow. So we definitely know what to pray for. The Olympic Committee eases restriction on Russian athletes ahead of the LA 2028 Summer Games, just allowing them to come back and forth within our borders, right? And a lawsuit alleges ICE violated man's First Amendment rights. We went over that yesterday. So thank you so much for going through this and following up with me. Now let's get into our first article. Now this one's about the Haitians and their TPS status, and that they're losing, I guess their license are being invalidated. But not only that, there is actually an appeal going on with them as well.
Licenses are no longer valid for Haitians living under TPS.
According to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website, work permits are set to expire just 4 days from now. That'll be July 10th. It's creating some issues for an estimated 12,000 Haitians living in Springfield. 2 News reporter Julian Jackson has been covering this topic. He joins us now live from Springfield. Julian, how is the Haitian community navigating through this big challenge?
Hey, Jack, Lauren, they're taking things day by day is what they're telling me right now. And I do want to make a note of this. Now, we are learning that it is possible that the status of the Haitians holding TPS here in Springfield and across the nation may not end until July 20th. Now, that's because of a recent filing within the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. So we're still working to learn more on that. I talked to a guy earlier today. He said he's lived in Springfield for 5 years, and he said going to work right now is probably not a good idea.
I would say probably not because they're scared.
After living in Springfield for 5 years, Olfin Bailey says he's finally thinking about taking the government's offer to self-deport.
They said the government will give like 2,600 and for people who want to go voluntary.
Olfin says he still can't see why the government believes Haiti, which remains under a level 4 travel advisory, is safe for people to return.
If it's not safe for American people and it's not safe for me as a human, yeah, but they don't see it like that.
James Florijan with the Haitian Support Center tells me if it was safe to go back, it's likely that all 350,000 Haitians living in the U.S. under TPS would leave.
Haitians, they're so proud of the country, they are so patriotic, and they love the country. They just stay here just because they don't have a choice.
For the time being, anyone who needs to go to work, needs groceries, or needs to get other appointments are being accommodated through rideshare services and the help of volunteers.
This is what we do to see if we can help them out to endanger themselves, driving without a valid driver's license.
I asked Olfane if he still feels safe in Springfield.
People were very, 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 I would say, very kind. Not anymore.
Now we are still working to learn more, and at this time, with the driver's license expiring, the work permits just 4 days from now, they are still navigating things day by day. Now what they're telling me is that they just hope that things can be peaceful at this time. We're going to continue following updates and let you know if anything arises. You can follow that here live on air and through the 2 News app.
Okay, so what I wanted to bring up, because I was like, okay, we just got the Supreme Court ruling, but now the circuit court is still trying to see what they can do for the Haitians before they leave. And it's really crazy. I'm like, stop interfering. You were just told the Trump administration, they are ending TPS for this. Because what people don't realize, it was the earthquake that happened back in 2010. TPS is only for 18 months. That's it at its maximum. People have been here since 2010. It is 2026. Huh? What? Okay. So now it was ended effective February 3rd. It's now July, right? And that's because the Supreme Court had to go in because there was a district court that blocked it, right? Finding it likely arbitrary, capricious, and prejudicially flawed and tainted by animus. Basically, long words for saying they don't think that it should be valid, right? Because they're looking at the humanitarian side. But here's the deal. People from Haiti live in Haiti. The reason why it's not safe for Americans, we're not from there. We don't know where to go. Okay. And yes, we would be taken hostage for somebody as ransom. That's why it's not safe for us. It's safer for you because you're from there. Okay. You have family there. You have connections there. You're from there. Period. Right. So under this, so the Haitian equal protection claim was likely to succeed on the merits. And this is just talking about the 6-3 reverse to the lower courts. So the TPS statute bars judicial review of non-constitutional challenges to TPS termination, including APA and procedural claims. Now, this cleared the way for the termination to proceed. The cases were remanded. Now, here's the current status. TPS for Haiti effectively ended following the Supreme Court ruling. However, due to prior court's orders, USCIS has extended EAD validity for qualifying Haitians through July 10th, which is tomorrow. Employers should treat current TPS-based EADs as valid for I-9 purposes until further notice, but monitor USCIS for wind down guidance. Further proceedings on any remaining claims are possible but limited. Okay, so it is moving, but that's what's happening with this whole DC court thing. Because I was like, what in the world is going on now? Oh my goodness. I'm like, yeah, people, it's time to pack it up. It's time to leave. Okay, now this next one is about birthright citizenship. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but they do make a good point.
This is Congressman Brandon Gill, who joins me now. Congressman, it's good to see you. You know, before we get to birthright citizenship, and I do want to talk about that with you, we're Texans, you and I. What do you make of this? What do you make of this advertising in Mexico?
Well, it's disgraceful, and I think that it's deeply insulting to every single American. We recognize in America, as American citizens, that American citizenship is worth far more.
Okay, and I know you guys might not be able to see the sign in the background, but basically that sign is saying now you can just pay to have a baby in America. Yeah, now they're just exploiting it. They're like, before we were just doing it all undercover on the black market. Now we can just exploit it because, you know, the U.S. Supreme Court said anybody born on soil, that's what we're doing. This is why we know. This is why we know you got it wrong, Supreme Court. You got it wrong. It isn't just soil. It wasn't meant for any and everybody that touches the United States to be a U.S. citizen. But here we are.
More than $4,000, that you don't just cross the border and enter magic dirt and have a child and that child become fully American. You know, our becoming an American citizen means not only that you have constitutional liberties, that you have legal and economic protections and social opportunities that nobody else in the world has, but it also means that you are a part of the American body politic, that you have the rights and responsibilities that come with being an American citizen, meaning you can influence our system of government, our rule of law, how this country functions, and that's not something that we just simply hand out to our geopolitical adversaries or to anybody who just simply crosses the border for the purpose of giving birth. That's not how our system has ever been designed to work, and that's the core problem here that we're getting to. It's protecting our country and our people and recognizing that America is for Americans, and we're going to keep it that way.
That is the core problem. There's also a core problem when it comes to this particular story, Congressman. You may disagree with me, I'm not sure. But the hospital in Mission offering obstetricians and gynecologists to Mexicans for a fee is not actually a big a problem for me. The problem is that those medical tourists get not just really high quality medical care, they get birthright citizenship. In other words, if we did not have birthright citizenship, I would not have a problem with this service being offered at the border. You know, the problem is it's coming with the most valuable thing that we have to offer, as you point out, which is citizenship in America. And that brings us to this. What do we do now? We've heard the Supreme Court. What can you do in Congress on birthright citizenship?
Well, I completely agree. American citizenship is the most valuable thing in the world. That's why people all over the globe seek to come into the United States and want to become Americans, and why we have to protect it. But there's a few things that we can do going forward, and I'll say shy of a constitutional amendment that would clarify the 14th Amendment, which I think we would all love to see, but politically would be impractical at this point, given the opposition we have from the left. One is that the Congress can pass legislation that clarifies what's subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that phrase in the 14th Amendment that the left latches onto. And there's been legislation from some of my colleagues, which I support, that have done just that. I think those would get litigated, but that would at least move us in the right direction. At the same time, we can enforce our border laws much.
Look, it says attributed to birth tourism, 26,000. And since that time that they've actually been citing the numbers, and this is just an estimate, there's been 3.5 million total U.S. births. And 26,000 of those are attributed to birth or tourism, which to me, they should be completely invalidated. And I will leave this video so you guys can watch the rest of it. Now, the next one we're going to get into is this judge. I wanted to just get an update on her. She's not going to prison. She's just going to get a fine.
Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan was spared from prison today for ushering a Mexican defendant out of her courtroom last year to evade ICE agents. The federal judge fining her $5,000, citing her otherwise law-abiding life. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joins us. Jeff, Dugan was convicted of felony obstruction following that incident, which many remember because it was caught on camera. Tell us more about this decision.
So if convicted, Dugan faced a possibility of multiple years behind bars, but the judge just today not handing down prison time for her after being found guilty back in December of felony obstruction. Following that high-profile conviction, the U.S. District Judge today issuing Dugan a $5,000 fine. The prosecution stemming from an April 2025 incident at the Milwaukee County Courthouse where Dugan led an undocumented immigrant, Eduardo Flores Ruiz, and his attorney out a private jury door when immigration officers came to the courthouse. Dugan confronting them outside her courtroom and directing them to the chief judge's office. Now, the judge saying in part, quote, "I think this is a situation where an otherwise good person upset by immigration policies in this country made a bad decision in the moment." Among the Republican lawmakers speaking out, Wisconsin Congressman Scott Fitzgerald and also Tom Tiffany. Fitzgerald writing here, quote, "Absolutely outrageous, a slap on the wrist for someone who abused the power of her office and failed to uphold the law." And Tiffany, a $5,000 fine is a slap on the wrist. A liberal judge failed to deliver justice. Now, prosecutors had argued in a sentencing memo that Dugan violated her oath as a judge, putting both law enforcement and the public at risk. Meanwhile, her attorney said she's been punished enough and shouldn't face any jail time.
Yeah. Rules for me and not for thee. This is ridiculous because now other judges are going to be like, well, if she got away with that, I surely can get away with anything else. And they are. They're just releasing people. And American citizens are getting injured. These people are dangerous. She should be disbarred completely. She should never be allowed anywhere near the legislative system. So if people keep her as a judge, because she can't be removed. She can't be removed. She can't be disbarred. You don't have to go to jail, but you don't have to have your job. There's a difference. You don't have to go to jail, but you don't have to have your job. That's what I'm saying. Wisconsin, do the right thing. Now, we're going to move on to looking at these visa investigations. Apparently, something's been going on.
Welcome back. The Trump administration launching a wide-ranging government-wide anti-fraud effort. The Labor Department's Inspector General, Anthony D'Esposito, now leading a major investigation into H-1B and perm employment visas, as well as potential human trafficking cases. Joining me now, the man leading the investigation, U.S. Department of Labor Inspector General Anthony D'Esposito. Inspector General, great to have you. Welcome.
Great to be with you, Maria. Thanks for having me.
Well, this sounds very serious. Tell us about your investigation. Are you saying that there is fraud and human trafficking within the H-1 visa program and the program that is the Program Electronic Review Management, or PERM system?
Without a doubt, and we are going to take an aggressive action, what we believe is probably the most aggressive action against foreign labor fraud by an Inspector General of this administration. We've already started to issue dozens of subpoenas. We are going to make sure that we track down every lead. We have whistleblowers talking about some of the biggest companies like Cognizant, who have been in chatter of issues with PERM and H-1B visas, and we are going to work side by side with the President and Vice President's fraud task force to exhaust every lead. I'm going to take this exactly like I did when I was an NYPD detective, and I'm going to give and make sure my investigators and auditors have every resource necessary in order to conduct this investigation for the American people. And quite frankly, the fraud task force has been very clear. Vice President Vance has said there's no fraud too small, there's no fraud too large. And this is another example where fraud is fueling violent crime. Much of the visa and the human trafficking that we see when it comes to this foreign labor is tied to cartels, is tied to transnational gangs. And this is the work that we should be doing, not only to make America safe again, but to make America more affordable again.
Wow, that's just incredible. I mean, look, the OIG says that you've uncovered schemes involving employers and labor brokers who submitted fraudulent applications exploited foreign workers through coercive wage kickback arrangements. Tell us how they're doing it.
Absolutely, and those are, again, people coming from different countries. They are cutting deals with what could be gangs or other groups. They're bringing them, and it's not just, let's be clear, this is not just people working in factories or actual labor. These are people working in medical facilities and doctors' offices that are actually putting people in harm's way. I mean, to the potential of causing death. So we are going to make sure that we, again, exhaust every lead that there is, whether it's in a factory in Middle America, whether it's along the ports in either the East or West Coast, or it has to do with doctors or nursing facilities anywhere in the United States of America.
Yeah, and I'll let you guys watch the rest of that later, because for sake of time, because I got one more thing to get to. But yeah, and see what a lot of people, and even they didn't mention this in this article, is the chain migration that comes with this H-1B visa. Because see, those people aren't vetted; they're just brought over. It's like, oh, these are my relatives, just bring them over. They're not vetted, and they are allowed to be here in the United States. We have, to our own peril, just been taken advantage of. The kindness has been taken advantage of. And in my opinion, it all needs to be shut down. When I say the border needs to be shut down, I'm talking about the administrative part too. I'm not talking about just a wall. I'm talking about no more visas of any kind need to be issued, not even tourist visas, unless it's for something like the World Cup, like a very specific event. Otherwise, and other than that, no, you cannot come here anymore. Like all these H-1B visas and the J-1 visas, it's out of control. Shut it down. No more visas, no more permanent visas, nothing. Shut it down. We need 20 years minimum. We have a mess of a country. And if we do not stop, it's going to continue in a way that we don't want to. I don't want to live in a socialist country. Okay, if I wanted to live in a socialist country, I would just go to Cuba. I would turn over my citizenship and I'd move to Cuba and be like, hey, I want to be a socialist. What is this all about? I might not last 2 weeks. I'm just saying they'd probably kill me because I'm an American. Period. These cupcakes, communists, they need to stop it because they have no idea what communism is. They read their books and then they sit in their houses with lights, with plumbing, thinking we need communism. No, we don't. If you want communism, move to a communist country. Nobody's stopping you. No one's holding you back. Just saying. Now, this last one I want to get to, this is Doc Rich. And good morning to everybody that's joining me. Smith McKenzie, Nose Picking Monster. Wow, that's an interesting name. And then Make Dog Famous. Good morning to all of you. And thank you so much for joining me. And the last video we're going to get to is Doc Rich. This one's interesting.
This man, they never make any sense, ever. I kind of envy the Democrat Party and how they were able to brainwash so many people. Because when you start asking these people questions, they don't even know what to say. It's honestly quite amazing. They just repeat what they've been told. It's like they're robots or something. It's kind of weird.
Do you think President Trump is a fascist?
Yes.
Why is President Trump a fascist?
I'm not sure how to answer.
Well, what is fascism?
I'm also not sure, but I know that man isn't worth the time.
Do you think President Trump is a fascist?
Yes.
How is President Trump a fascist?
There it is. The brain break. It's brain breaking. Getting them know what to do.
I don't think it's gonna work.
Do you think President Trump's a fascist?
I actually just took a fascism class and we did not discuss that, but I have my own thoughts on President Trump.
You took a fascism class?
I did.
What is fascism?
Fascism to me is, I agree with, there's like different definitions.
You can get your textbook.
Yes, I can. Let me pull it up.
Did you find out what fascism means yet?
I know what fascism means, but I'm definitions to compare and contrast.
Can you give me one definition?
No, there's no one definition of fascism. It's still highly debated among historians.
Can you give me a definition?
It's when you're...
I actually think I'm done engaging.
Wait, no, but I want to talk.
Yeah, that part. His brain just broke. Oops. Sorry, you guys. Didn't mean to do that. That was my closing. But yeah, his brain literally just broke. You could see it. He asked him, it was like, okay, explain fascism. And his brain was just like, it broke. Because a lot of times people are just, right now, they're following and they're not informed, right? They're just not making informed decision. And Spud says they can't tell you because it's that MSNBC and CNN programming that's downloaded on their hard drives and like a virus. Yeah. Like I said, I was like, you could see it. It's very disheartening because I'm like, you're a young person, right? You should be on top of all of this stuff to be able to share with us what's going on. And Ozzy Crosby says, because the left likes to change definitions of words that describe them too well. It's like I said, it's really sad. So I did look it up and I was like, okay, I want to understand. Give me a definition of fascism, right? And so here's Grok. Fascism is a far-right, authoritarian, ultra-nationalist political ideology and movement that emerged in the early 20th century in Europe, notably under Benito Mussolini in Italy. So for this not to have a confirmed definition, because it says notably, and using ultra-nationalist, where'd that word come from? Right? Did anybody hear ultra nationalist growing up? I'm in my 50s. Anybody? Bueller? No, because to your point, it's like some stuff is made up and stuff. And I'm just like, because Grok aggregates, which I appreciate, right? So for brief core features, widely agreed upon by historians. So there's a group of people that said, yeah, we agree that it's like this. Extreme nationalism, right, prioritizes the nation or the people race above the individual. Okay, so this is fascism, right? The state or leader embodies the national will. Authoritarian dictatorial rule, a strong central leader or one-party state with dictatorial power, suppression of opposition, free speech, and democracy. Interesting, because people could have said that about the Biden administration because there were a lot of people that were removed from TikTok. They were removed from X. They were completely, their free speech was stripped. I'm just saying, that happened. And it's even happened here where people feel that their free speech has been stripped. But the difference is a lot of people, saying that they want to eliminate other people, that's when your free speech stops. You cannot threaten other people's lives. That's when it's no longer free speech. That's the measure. Okay. Now, materialism and regimentation. Some of these words, I'm just saying, glorify strength, hierarchy, military values, and state control over society economy, often corporatistic. Interesting. Because when I'm seeing this definition of fascism, I'm like, okay, this is what the left likes to say all the time, that it's just their words. Are we still under the Chevron doctrine with fascism? Did you just make the word up? Because I know it's a real word. So we'll get to the definition here in a second. And Ozzy Crosby says, just like claim that Dems and Republicans switched ideas. It's really interesting. So rejection of liberalism, communism, and individualism. So that's fascism right now. They reject liberalism, communism, and individualism under this definition. I'm just saying, opposes democracy, pluralism, equality, and left-wing ideas. That's fascism right now. Often uses propaganda, cults of personality, and violence for national rebirth. And the reason why Grok can come back with this is because this is what it's been fed. I'm not wrong. I wish I was. Projection. I know. I'm not wrong. So fascism means you're rejecting. So if you're a fascist, You reject liberalism, you reject communism, and you reject individualism. Huh? It's wild. Wild. So then I said, can you give me the Webster's Dictionary definition, right? So often capitalized, a populist political philosophy, movement, or regime, such as that of the fascists, right? That exalts nation and often race above the individual. That is associated with a centralized autocratic government headed by a dictatorial leader, and that is characterized by severe economic and social regimentation and by forcible suppression of opposition. Now, if we're looking at that definition, that is where they really want to get to, because when you look at what socialism does, this is what socialism does. It's severe economic and social regimentation. You are going to have to buy and do things a certain way for the socialist community to work, and it's by force. It's not by choice. That's why I say we do have quasi-socialism, but it's by choice so that others that may not have as much can still share in the benefits because of their contribution. Okay? That's our quasi-socialism. That's why I say it's quasi. It's not full socialism, because we still get to elect our representatives. But they want to get to this part. So are they the fascists? It's like I said, it's very, very interesting. So the word originates from Italian fascimiso or fascio, bundled or grouped, right? Referring to the ancient Roman fasces, symbol of authority. It often used more broadly, right? Sometimes informally, exaggeratedly for any strong authoritarian control. Because they keep saying, President Trump, he's an authoritarian. He's authoritarian. He's authoritarian. He's the president right now. He's in charge. An authoritarian, truly, if anybody said anything against him, even if under their free speech, without any threat, would be in prison right now. And that's not what's happening. The person that was being questioned that sent that email to the head of DHS, mainly they were probably questioned is because the threats against DHS and ICE went up like 8,000% or something ridiculous. So they are investigating everybody because, as an individual, they're like, who can we trust out there? So I can understand that questioning. There was somebody, I remember they made a real threat against George Bush. They made a real threat against him. And the FBI came to where he was and was like, nope, you stop. Now, authoritarian would say, take the shot or lose your job, right? Now, did some people lose their jobs? Exactly. Take the injection or lose your job. Did that happen to a lot of people? That happened to a lot of people. I know some people that lost their jobs because they couldn't take it, because they just couldn't. They would have had a bad reaction. Even had a doctor say they couldn't take it, but they still had to leave their job. So it really begs the question. And thank you for bringing that up, Osby. Who's the real authoritarian? Who's the real fascist, right? So thank you guys for joining me so much on the broadcast today for Mighty Men Thursday. Tomorrow we'll be back with Prayer with Friday, so we can pray about all the things that we've been talking about this week. So again, thank you for joining me. And remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you in the next one.